Oh! Yeah, that's a great way to start the video. I started rewatching The Sopranos. I watched it twice during COVID. I was bored, weren't we all? And I got the itch to watch it again. As someone with a very Italian last name, I won't actually say what it is, but it is basically linguine. I have a lot of thoughts about how the show shaped being an Italian American, among other things. And also just some stuff that stuck out to me the third time around. So after blacking out and testing negative for any obvious neurological disorders or injury, Tony is waiting outside Dr. Melfi's office for his first psychiatry appointment. Shout out to our therapy king. The first shot of the show lingers on Tony observing a bronze statue. Opening the show on Tony staring down at this statue is telling us that Tony has complicated relationships with the women in his life. There's Carmela, his mother, his gumaz, if you will. But of course, I think the statue is mostly a stand-in for Melfi.
Mr. Soprano?
I think the blocking of the statue in a powerful, bearing all type of pose, opposite Tony, who is in a sort of submissive seating position, Jesus Christ, I sound like those green line guys on TikTok, foreshadows something about the relationship he'll have with Dr. Melfi. Dr. Melfi is someone who won't bend to Tony's will throughout the series, and the fact that it's a nude statue highlights Tony's attraction to her in his many seduction attempts that will be unsuccessful. Listen, I know the statue being naked doesn't necessarily make it sexual, but it's Tony. Tony definitely thinks the statue is hot. Dr. Melfi adheres to a rigid, like bronze, ethical code in her consistent rejection of Tony's sexual advances, which is hard for him since he's usually a guy who gets what he wants. Like bronze is rigid. I had a really difficult time wording this part. I'm trying to say Melfi's ethical code is as strong as bronze. Book it. Something that's interesting about the pilot is that we get like 20 minutes of voiceover guiding the narrative from Tony, which is something I don't think ever happens in the show again, but works great to move us through a jam-packed pilot. It's getting hot in here. It's always getting hot when I'm doing these.
The morning of the day I got sick, I've been thinking, it's good to be in something from the ground floor. I came too late for that. But lately I'm getting the feeling that I came in at the end.
A trait of great media is that it's timeless. As the middle class has been eroded over the past 25 years or so since the show's release, it does feel like we're much closer to an end than getting in on any kind of ground floor in America in 2026. Unless you want to get in on the ground floor of my AI crypto agent startup, you give us your money and we scam you. It just doesn't feel like anyone can make a living anymore. I'll tell you who is making a living, my barber. I got a big haircut. He cut my hair for 20 minutes and then he said, now we can start the haircut. And I was like, Jesus Christ. But the fact that this is relatable makes me wonder, how long have Americans been feeling like this? Is this just something that people feel at all times, regardless of circumstances? Are we constantly looking back at the good old days, thinking they had it better when maybe they didn't? Or is it more of a tangible squeeze by our corporate interest-ran government on the middle class that people have felt for the past 25 years plus? It's probably a bit of everything. It's probably a lot of that stuff. Jumping around, let's talk about Arty and Junior.
Don't move. How you doing?
This is a really dark joke from Tony. It's like all these guys are living under constant threat of being absolutely of mice and men in a restaurant. These mobsters are taking turns planning to whack each other, and any day could be their last. The obvious parallels here is that Tony is referencing the hit that Junior is planning on Gennaro, Little Pussy, Malanga at Vesuvio, but it's also reminiscent of Tony's implied death in the ambiguous series finale. It also shows that these guys are numb to violence. It's just dark, all things considered. I love Arty's character. In a lot of ways, he's the opposite of Tony. For the most part, he's an honest, hardworking businessman doing it by the book. But it's more out of necessity rather than choice. Like later in the show, there's that arc where Arty tries to do some mob tactics and it just doesn't work for him. He doesn't have the gut for it, which is not a bad thing. Something I have to remind myself sometimes is that all these guys in Tony's crew are absolute irredeemable dirtbags. And yeah, while Arty Bucco might not be as cool as Tony, it's ultimately good that he has enough empathy to not do organized crime. In an effort to get Arty out of town and close Vesuvio so the hit cannot take place, Tony gives Arty cruise tickets so he'll leave and close the restaurant for like 3 weeks. Which is funny to imagine a restaurant being financially stable enough to just close for 3 weeks. More and more as time goes by, The Sopranos starts to feel like a period piece. I guess it's not technically a period piece because it was made in 99 and it's in 99, but you know what I'm trying to say. Arty's wife, Charmaine, objects to accepting the tickets.
Come on, Arthur. Somebody donated their kneecaps for those tickets.
And she's right. She knows the tickets are dirty, and she knows that accepting those, they open the door to more trouble from the mob, which unfortunately, unbeknownst to them, that door is already wide open. Tony and company deem it better for the restaurant to be destroyed rather than it go out of business due to poor sales because of the hit. And that destroys Arty.
You work so hard. You work so damn hard. And to see your life's dream burned down. Come on.
And I think that Tony was correct to do that, but it still makes Arty a victim here. So what does this arc tell us? Even if you aren't involved with the mob directly, your proximity to it will still get you hurt. Arty's only crime here is that mobsters like to eat at his restaurant, and there's sort of no way for him to change that without, I don't know, getting hurt or getting Vesuvio detonated anyways. Like, if Arty really made an effort to not welcome the mob, it wouldn't be good for him. You might get free tickets to something now and again, but overall, the association with Tony and his crew will make your life worse. Let's talk about Junior while we're here. Tony loves Junior, but it's difficult for Junior to accept Tony as the boss when Junior literally helped raise Tony.
Uncle Junior's my father's brother.
That's the one.
Good guy, just getting old. Used to take me to Yankee games when I was a kid. I loved my uncle. When I was young, he told my girl cousins I would never be a varsity athlete, and frankly, that was a tremendous blow to my self-esteem.
Which continues to illustrate Tony is a sensitive little guy in a lot of ways, especially with people whom he cares deeply for. This is at odds with his preferred appearance as a Gary Cooper-esque strong silent type. This guy talks way too much to be a strong silent type. Okay, so Tony wants Junior to do the hit elsewhere, not at Arty's restaurant, and this causes conflict between the two.
You kill him someplace else.
You may run North Jersey, but you don't run your Uncle Junior.
At the end of the episode, while driving to Tony's, Junior and Olivia get nostalgic for the way things used to be.
Well, if his father was still alive, you can bet your boots he'd show more decency and respect for his mother.
Lots of things are different now from Johnny's in my day. We used to be recession-proof. No more.
Then he says this.
Something may have to be done, Olivia, about Tony.
Which I think connects nicely to other hints that we see that Tony is on the edge of death and being betrayed, like the camera lingering on the Last Supper when Tony is with Meadow in a church. When you're number one, everyone's coming for you. Besides Junior, Tony and his mother Olivia both also learned for the nostalgia of the good old days. Olivia is
Quite a formidable maternal presence.
who longs for a world that has passed her by. She wants to go back to the time when her husband was alive and she was a part of a community that she knew well. Now she's alone and scared to answer the phone at night.
Somebody called here last night after dark.
Who?
You think I'd answer? It was dark out.
It's like I get. Someone calls me after 8 p.m., I am nervous. And it is almost always the Domino's pizza that I have ordered. Tony is not a perfect son, but he does make legitimate attempts to raise the quality of Olivia's life. Like, for example, he gets her a CD player with all of her favorite old music to remind her of what her life used to be like.
You love music. All the old stuff's being reissued on CD. All your old favorites. Come on. Come on.
Stop there.
Daughters are better at taking care of their mothers than sons.
Yeah, and I bought CDs for a broken record.
That's a sick burn from Tony on his mom. And this is sad coming from Olivia. Like, Tony is the only one who is consistently around taking care of his mother. Tony is also nostalgic for the past, but in contrast to his mother, he feels like it might be possible to get back to those good times.
Had some good times. Had some good years.
Here he goes now with the nostalgia.
Hey, all I'm saying is no marriage is perfect.
Well, having that Kumar on the side helps.
I told you I'm not seeing her anymore.
I mean, he's still lying about his guma, but still, there's a bit of hope here that his mother doesn't have. She has no interest in making the current times as good as the old times. In a different way, Junior is going to try and make things like they used to be by killing Tony, which obviously will just start another wave of nostalgia from the guys who will miss the things the way they used to be when Tony was in charge. After Christopher kills a Czechoslovakian from a rival mob over a garbage contract dispute, the screen flashes photos of 3 actors, Humphrey Bogart, Dean Martin, and Edward G. Robinson, all who played iconic mobster roles at one point during their careers, which starts the meta in-show conversation about Italian representation in media influencing the characters of the show and people in real life. This comes up a few times the rest of the pilot. My prosciutto arm is getting sweaty.
Tony watches Godfather 2 all the time. He says the camera work looks just as good as in the movie theater.
No, Gordon Willis. Tony prefers 2, not 1.
Yeah, he likes the part where Vito goes back to Sicily. 3 was like, what happened?
Where does Tony rank Goodfellas?
Knowing that Tony has an arc where he goes to Italy later in the series while also being an avid fan of the Godfather trilogy really starts getting us into Baudrillard simulacrum territory. Didn't expect me to say that, did ya? I went to college, and I wrote a paper on that guy. I got a B. Tony is a character in a show subconsciously nostalgic for an Italy he's mainly seen through movies and stories, and the meta-ness doesn't stop there.
Call a development girl out in Hollywood, right? She said I could sell my life story, make f***ing millions. I didn't do that. I stuck it out with you.
You know how many mobsters are selling screenplays and screwing everything up? Forget Hollywood screenplays. Forget those distractions. Huh? What do you think, I have in that office?
This is such a fun commentary from the show. The Godfather and Goodfellas, and then later The Sopranos, have totally shaped Italian-American identity, and the fact that Christopher wants to write his story as well is commenting on that. My rewrite of The Sopranos ending is when it cuts to black after Tony dies, it comes up and Christopher's in a pitch meeting pitching The Sopranos to HBO. Huh? How terrible would that be? Reminder, my real last name has the same cartoonish Italian qualities as someone who is named Linguini. Like, I have so many memories growing up where my friends' dads would hear my last name and be jokingly like, oh, your family must be in the mob, or family members telling obvious lies about our cousins back in Italy that we don't talk to, wink wink. It's interesting to think what an outsized impact media like The Godfather, Goodfellas, and The Sopranos have had on the Italian-American culture at large. Bear with me while I go on this tangent. The initial wave of Italian immigration in the late 1800s into the 1900s was tumultuous. Fleeing a crumbling Italy in the hopes of a better life, Italians weren't considered white when they arrived in America. They were a minority group that would be discriminated against. This led to a muting of the Italian identity in the earliest 20th century America and the generations to follow. Going from the initial discrimination of the late 1800s to the eventual total assimilation of Italian Americans, there are some cultural gaps that I think have been filled in by popular stories and media. For example, anecdotal, my great-grandmother was off the boat from Italy, and when she got here, she said, "We are not Italian anymore, we are American." She sort of nixed the immediate family being or acting Italian out of fear of discrimination. And I suspect that was the case for many Italians at the time. And so now, over 100 years later, where there is gaps in our cultural ancestral history, I think that Americans have sort of adopted the stories of The Godfather, The Sopranos, The Goodfellas as their sort of collective histories. These pieces of media have culturally exported the New York, New Jersey Italian experience to sort of all Americans who have any kind of Italian-sounding last name, if that makes sense. And I'm getting a little chicken and egg here. Like, obviously, The Godfather, Goodfellas, The Sopranos are based off of real Italian-American culture. Like, I'm not saying that Italian-American culture didn't exist before these films, or that Italian-Americans are literally pretending that they are in The Sopranos. But it does feel like these pieces of media have shaped the culture as much as they're depicting it. And I bring this up not as a sob story or to say that Italians are getting discriminated against today. They're not. If you think renaming Christopher Columbus Day is Italian discrimination, I don't know what to tell you. I more bring this up as a sort of funny cultural touch point that we all live with. I guess what I'm trying to say, like, anecdotally, is like, these movies have given American families with Italian-sounding last names who have totally lost their connection to Italy the blueprint on how to dress and how to pretend they're affiliated with organized crime to varying degrees. Like, fellow Italian last namers, don't you remember your very middle management uncles pretending to be in the mob sometimes? Or the really watery lasagna that someone in your family insists is a real recipe that was passed down, but it really came off a bottle of Prego. And as a disclaimer, obviously Italians are not the only group to face discrimination in this sort of cultural muting in America, and they certainly didn't have it the worst. But for the sake of time and scope, this just is what felt relevant to talk about. Anyways, getting back on track about nostalgia, Tony is at Meadows' outdoor volleyball game, which to me this screams that one of their production locations fell through or something, because like, why are they playing volleyball outside on a caged cement court like this?
Side out. The ball hit the line.
What are you doing, ref?
Dude, this show is funny. People forget. This scene also shows how much Tony's worlds bleed into one another. He's at his daughter's volleyball game and he's still talking business with Sal. My man is multitasking. After, Tony takes Meadow into the church nearby to talk about her and Carmela, but he gets distracted by, being Italian, of course.
Your mother thinks you have the capacity to be a top student.
What are you looking at?
Your great-grandfather and his brother Frank, they built this place. They came over here from Italy. They built this place. Go out now and find me 2 guys that can put decent gratter on your bathtub.
I think Tony here is contemplating his own mortality and legacy. Has he really built anything lasting? Are the good men of the past still around, or are they also gone with the good old days? Were the old times actually as good as Tony is making them out to be? And I think most importantly, the way we linger on the carving of the Last Supper, can Tony really trust the guys around him? Is he gonna get Judased?
Whatever happened to Gary Cooper? The strong, silent type. He wasn't in touch with his feelings. He just did what he had to do. See, what they didn't know was once they got Gary Cooper in touch with his feelings, that they wouldn't be able to shut him up.
Tony, what happened to guys like Gary Cooper is that they killed themselves because they had no one to talk to. Don't feel like I need to labor that point. So the show is referencing actors again. Like, I think we've all encountered this before. People constantly mistake morally corrupt television characters' actions and values for real life ones. Like, in our age of anti-hero prestige TV, we have so many people taking away the wrong lessons from Walter White, Don Draper, Tony Soprano, to name a few. The whole idea that someone could walk away from Breaking Bad and be like, yo, Skyler was annoying, is what I'm getting at. These are all bad guys that we love to watch on TV, but obviously if we knew anyone like them in real life, we'd be like, yo, I hate this mother. Not me though, I'd be friends with Tony. He would like me. Like, we see Tony do this when talking about Gary Cooper. While Gary Cooper's characters weren't anti-heroes, they're still just characters. And Tony, as a grown man, seeing the strong silent type on screen and wanting to emulate it is childlike, almost. I fell off my bunk bed after I saw Spider-Man in 2006 because I thought I could walk on the ceiling. Not too far off what Tony's trying to do with Gary Cooper, is it? Characters are not fully fleshed out people to model your life after. And to desire to be a typecast that an actor is put in roles as is no way to live your life. Okay, let's talk about the Ducks. The in-show take on the Ducks is that they represent Tony's family. And when the Ducks left, he realized how much his life would be destroyed if his family left or was hurt. When asked about what he's afraid will happen to them, Tony says he's not sure, but I think we all know that Tony is worried that someone will do something violent to him or his family in the same way that him and his crew do to others. But also, I think the Ducks are the only thing in Tony's life where he could just fully be himself. Like at work, he's putting on his tough guy persona and hiding any inkling of weakness. Or at home, he's trying to hide from Carmela not only the details of his work, but also his infidelity. Or at therapy, he's actively withholding truths from Dr. Melfi in order to not be reported to the police. When he was with the Ducks, he could just be. And losing that outlet causes his stress to spike, leading to his blackouts, among other reasons. Anyway, some stuff I wanted to briefly jump around before we conclude. The scene at Vesuvio when Melfi can't get a table, but Tony sees her and sets her up with one is great foreshadowing for the ethical issues Melfi is going to face, treating a person as corrupt and powerful as Tony. I love the way he how you doings Melfi's date.
How you doing?
That's good stuff. Right before threatening the insurance rep into submission, I think it's fun that he's talking about antidepressants here.
So f***ing depressed I can't eat, sleep.
You on Prozac?
Zoloft did similar.
Not only is this show portraying antidepressant use, but also having Tony feel noticeably better by the end of the pilot because of talk therapy is so interesting. To think that The Sopranos had such a positive impact on the perception of mental health treatment, as well as your dad dressing in short sleeve shirts and khakis, is really remarkable. Also, we get these fun scenes back to back where Tony takes his guma to Vesuvio and then is back there with Carmela the next night and the staff pretends they haven't seen him in a long time.
Buonasera. Months we don't see you. Where have you been?
I need to look into this, but I wonder if this is where this cliche came from. Be pretty good if it was. And I like the setup here that Carmela assumes Tony's psychiatrist is a man.
You told him about your father, right?
Who?
Your therapist?
I would love to do the I can't operate on this boy, he's my son thought experiment to Carmela. I would absolutely get her ass, dude. And this is the best line read of the whole pilot.
Mom, do you have any idea how much it means to actually go skiing in Aspen? I mean, do you think that's gonna happen every year? Like lame tea and scones at the Plaza Hotel?
On the last shot of the pilot, the camera lingers on the empty pool, telling us that not only does Tony care for his family and worry for their safety, but also for the rest of the series, we're going to see Tony hiding different parts of his identity from the people in his life in order to maintain this sort of Gary Cooper image. The pilot is about depression and anxiety interacting with masculinity. It's about nostalgia for the good old days that probably weren't all that great. It's about masking around different groups of people in order to protect yourself. And it's about the heritage and the influence of media on a diaspora. But above all, it's about being Italian. I think this is probably one of the greatest pilots of all time. And I think it's probably one of the greatest shows of all time. But it's important to note how different the pilot is from the rest of the show. Like specifically, Tony and Christopher assaulting the insurance rep in broad daylight with a car for everyone to see. Like, compared to the relatively cautious Tony from the rest of the show, this is out of character. But nonetheless, the pilot does a great job getting us into Tony's world. So as I rewatch The Sopranos, I think I will make videos about it. It's not going to be every episode, but, you know, I might watch half a season and then kind of, you know, make something like that, or I'm just going to see what feels right. In the meantime, in the background, I'm working on other more fun genre videos like the shrinking one I just did. My next video is going to be about the alien invasion genre, which I'm very excited for. If you're still here, I would love a comment. I would love a subscribe. Let's playfully disagree in the comments, but be sweet to me, I beg you. Also, closing in on 2,000 subscribers. Unreal. Thank you so much. Really. Love you guys. Bye.